Johnny Carson's laugh froze. Ed McMahon quietly cried. And the audience held its breath because Lucille Ball was saying goodbye. It was May 1989. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Studio 6B in Burbank, California. A Thursday night that started like any other: monologue, commercial break, musical guest. 300 people in the audience expecting laughs and celebrity banter, and maybe a funny desk piece from Johnny. But tonight's guest wasn't just any celebrity. Tonight, sitting in the chair across from Johnny Carson, was Lucille Ball. The Lucille Ball. The queen of television comedy. The woman who had invented the sitcom as America knew it. The legend who had been making people laugh since before Johnny was born. She was 77 years old. Still beautiful. Still sharp. Still carrying herself with that unmistakable presence that had commanded screens for 5 decades. Johnny had interviewed her dozens of times over the years. They had a comfortable rapport, the kind that comes from mutual respect and genuine affection. Lucy always brought out something softer in Johnny, something less guarded. She was one of the few guests who could make him laugh as hard as he made America laugh. Tonight felt different from the moment she walked onto the stage. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted nearly 2 minutes. Lucy smiled and waved, but there was something in her eyes. A distance, a sadness that the cameras caught but the live audience couldn't quite place. She settled into the guest chair. Johnny leaned forward on his desk, smiling that warm smile he reserved for people he genuinely cared about. "Lucy, it's always wonderful to have you here," he said. "It's wonderful to be here, Johnny," she replied, her voice steady but quieter than usual. "Though I have to tell you something." "What's that?" "This is going to be my last time." The studio went silent. The band stopped their subtle background music. Ed McMahon's smile faltered. Johnny's expression shifted from warmth to confusion. "Your last time on the show?" Johnny asked, trying to keep his tone light. "Lucy, you can't mean that. You're always welcome here. You know that." Lucy smiled, but it was the saddest smile anyone in that studio had ever seen. "I know, Johnny. But this is my last television appearance. Period. I'm done." Carson stopped mid-conversation. The entire studio froze. The control room erupted. Director Bobby Quinn was shouting into his headset. "Did she just announce retirement? Are we getting this? Tell me we're getting this." Producer Fred DeCordova stood behind the monitors, his hand gripping the back of Bobby's chair. "Keep rolling," he said quietly. "Don't you dare cut away." On stage, Johnny had gone very still. His hands were flat on his desk. His eyes were searching Lucy's face, looking for a joke, a punchline, the trademark Lucy mischief that meant she was setting up one of her famous bits. But there was no mischief. Only profound sadness, and something that looked like peace. "Lucy," Johnny said carefully. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Lucy took a breath. When she spoke, her voice was steady but thick with emotion. "I'm tired, Johnny. Not just tired from work. Tired of..." She gestured vaguely. "All of this. The cameras. The performances. Pretending everything is okay when it isn't." The audience was completely silent. Even the usual coughs and seat adjustments had stopped. 300 people holding their collective breath. "I've been doing this for 52 years," Lucy continued. "Since 1937. I've made people laugh through the Depression, through wars, through my own divorce, through losing Desi, through everything. And I'm grateful for every moment. But I'm ready to stop now." Ed McMahon, sitting to Johnny's right, had tears streaming down his face. He wasn't even trying to hide them. Johnny's jaw tightened. "Lucy, you're scaring me a little bit here. Are you okay? Health-wise?" Lucy smiled again, reaching over to pat Johnny's hand where it rested on the desk. "I'm as okay as a 77-year-old woman can be, Johnny. I'm not dying, if that's what you're asking. I'm just done performing." To understand what happened next, you need to understand the history between Johnny Carson and Lucille Ball. They had known each other for over 30 years. When Johnny first started hosting The Tonight Show in 1962, Lucy was already a television icon. I Love Lucy had ended its historic run just 6 years earlier, and she was producing her second sitcom. Lucy had been one of Johnny's first major celebrity guests. She'd seen something in him that night. A vulnerability hidden behind the jokes, a loneliness that matched her own. Over the years, they'd developed a friendship that existed beyond the cameras. They'd had quiet dinners, long phone conversations. They'd talked about the price of fame, the loneliness of being beloved by millions while feeling isolated from real connection. Johnny had been there when Lucy's marriage to Gary Morton hit rough patches. Lucy had been there when Johnny went through his second divorce. They understood each other in ways few people in their industry could, both of them performers who'd spent decades making America laugh while carrying their own private sadnesses. But there was something Lucy had never told Johnny. Something she'd never told anyone publicly. A weight she'd been carrying since 1986, 3 years earlier, when Desi Arnaz, her ex-husband, the father of her children, the love of her life, had died of lung cancer. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Desi had been gone for 3 years, but Lucy had never processed the grief. She'd kept working, kept performing, kept being the legendary Lucille Ball everyone expected. But the weight of that loss, combined with 5 decades of constant performance, had finally become too much to carry. On stage at The Tonight Show, Lucy looked at Johnny with eyes full of tears she was trying not to shed. "Johnny, I need to tell you something," she said. "And I need America to hear it too, because I've never said it out loud before." Johnny leaned even further forward. "Whatever you need to say, Lucy. I'm listening." "When Desi died," Lucy began, her voice cracking slightly, "I didn't cry. Not at the funeral. Not at home. Not once. People thought I was being strong, being professional. But the truth is, I didn't know how to cry anymore. I'd spent so many years performing grief, performing joy, performing everything, that I forgot how to actually feel it. The studio was so silent you could hear the soft hum of the cameras. I kept working," Lucy continued. "I did another show. Guest appearances. Specials. I kept being Lucy. But inside I was hollow. And I realized something terrible. I'd given so much of myself to making other people happy that I'd forgotten how to be a real person." A tear rolled down her cheek. Then another. Johnny's eyes were wet too, though he was fighting it. "The last time I saw Desi, before he died, he held my hand and he said, 'Lucy, when I'm gone, please stop performing. Please just live. We spend our whole lives being Lucy and Ricky, and we forgot how to be Lucy and Desi. Don't make that mistake again.'" Her voice broke on the last word. Johnny reached across the desk and took her hand. "I promised him I would," Lucy said through tears. "But I didn't keep that promise. I kept working. I kept being Lucy. Because I didn't know how to be anything else. But Johnny, I'm 77 years old. And if I don't stop now, I'm going to die never having kept that promise to the man I loved." Backstage, he made a choice no producer would have ever allowed. Johnny stood up. Not the casual standing he sometimes did during commercial breaks. He actually stood up in the middle of a live broadcast, stepped out from behind his desk, and walked around to Lucy's chair. The control room went crazy. Bobby Quinn was screaming. Fred de Cordova was shouting, "What is he doing? What is he doing?" But Johnny didn't care about protocol. He didn't care about blocking or camera angles or keeping to the show's format. He sat down on the edge of the guest chair beside Lucy and put his arm around her shoulders. "Lucy," he said, his voice gentle, "you don't owe anyone an explanation. You've given enough. You've given more than anyone could ever ask." Lucy leaned her head against Johnny's shoulder and cried. Really cried. The kind of crying that comes from 30 years of held grief finally being released. The cameras kept rolling. The audience sat in reverent silence. Ed McMahon was openly sobbing now, not even pretending to maintain composure. Doc Severinsen stood on the bandstand with tears streaming down his face, his trumpet held loosely in his hands. Johnny held Lucy while she cried, occasionally patting her shoulder, saying nothing because there was nothing to say. The moment transcended television. It transcended entertainment. It was simply two human beings, both legends, both performers, both carrying decades of weight, sharing a moment of absolute truth. When Lucy finally composed herself, she pulled back and looked at Johnny. Her makeup was ruined. Her hair was slightly messed up. She looked nothing like the polished Lucy Ricardo or Lucy Carter America had known for 50 years. She looked real. Vulnerable. Human. "Thank you, Johnny," she whispered. Johnny smiled through his own tears. "You know what Desi would say if he were here right now?" "What?" "He'd say you look beautiful. Because this, right now, this is really you. Not Lucy Ricardo. Not the performer. Just Lucy. And she's beautiful." But this was the moment no one in the studio, nor anyone at home, ever saw coming. Johnny stood up and walked back to his desk. He opened the top drawer and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. "Lucy," he said, returning to stand beside her chair, "I've been carrying something for a very long time. And I think tonight is the night you need to see it." He handed her the paper. Lucy unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a note. Handwritten. The ink faded but still legible. Lucy's eyes widened as she read it, then filled with fresh tears. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "Desi gave it to me," Johnny said. "6 months before he died. He called me, said he needed to see me. We met at a little restaurant in Los Angeles. He was already sick by then, though he was trying to hide it. He handed me that note and made me promise to give it to you when the time was right." Lucy was crying again, clutching the note to her chest. "What does it say?" Ed McMahon asked from his seat, his voice hoarse with emotion. Lucy looked at Johnny, who nodded encouragingly. She unfolded the note again and read aloud, her voice shaking. "Lucy, if Johnny is giving you this note, it means you finally stopped performing. I'm so proud of you. Now go live. Really live. Not for the cameras. Not for the audience. For you. I love you. I always will. Desi." The audience erupted. Not in applause yet, but in that collective sound of 300 people crying together. Johnny had his hand over his mouth, fighting to maintain composure. Ed had given up entirely, sobbing into a handkerchief. Lucy folded the note carefully and held it against her heart. "He knew," she said, looking at Johnny with wonder. "He knew I wouldn't be able to stop on my own. He knew I'd need permission." Johnny sat down beside her again. "You have it now, Lucy. From Desi. From all of us. Go live." The audience rose as one. Standing ovation. Not the excited applause of entertainment, but the reverent applause of people witnessing something sacred. Lucy stood, clutching Desi's note, and waved to them one final time. Johnny walked her to the curtain. At the edge of the stage, Lucy turned back and kissed his cheek. "Thank you for keeping his promise," she whispered. "Thank you for keeping yours," Johnny replied. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. Lucy died exactly 1 month later, April 26, 1989. The note from Desi was found in her nightstand, placed carefully beside a photograph of the two of them from 1940. Johnny kept a copy of that note in his desk drawer until his final show in 1992. During his last monologue, he mentioned it briefly. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is permission to stop fighting and just be. The original note is now in the Smithsonian, displayed beside a cue card from that final Tonight Show appearance. Together, they remind us that even legends need permission to be human.